These are images of Venezuela security forces in the neighborhood of La Vega in Caracas. They're part of a unit known as FAES, a special action force created in 2016 to fight against crime in the South American nation. Human rights groups say during an operation here in January, at least 23 people were killed. Most of them were young and poor men. Father Alfredo Infante says most of the killings were extrajudicial executions.
Most of those killed had no links to gangs or the police that are the ones who are confronting each other. The victims were not hit by stray bullets. So far, nobody has come here to investigate what happened.
Father Infante says protests had been on the rise in the area prior to the raid, due to lack of basic services.
We have problems with gas, water and food, and people take to the streets. Curiously, after those protests there was this huge raid that paralyzed people. It was an occupation.
The United Nations and human rights organizations claim the FAES have turned into death squads that have killed thousands of people in the country over the past years. They say there is a pattern among those killed.
Most of the victims are young and poor. If you live in a poor area and you have been to jail, it is a death sentence. When the police have a profile on a computer and the person has a record, in 95% of the cases, that person is killed.
So far this year, human rights groups say over 200 people have been killed by security forces. Venezuela's former prosecutor Luisa Ortega told Al Jazeera Nicolás Maduro will be investigated at the International Criminal Court for the deaths of at least 8,000 people at the hands of the country's security forces. The investigation includes abuses during the protests against the government, but also the ones that happened during raids in poor areas.
One of the great confrontations I had with the government of Nicolás Maduro is because of human rights abuses, several massacres at the hands of security forces. I went to the International Criminal Court to denounce the killing of 8,000 Venezuelans during a period of 3 years. We are waiting for the beginning of the investigation against Maduro and generals for human rights abuses. There is no control in Venezuela, and there are no investigations into abuses.
Abuses which the relatives of those killed have been denouncing for years, with the hope their demands for justice will finally be heard. Teresa, Al Jazeera.